So for the head of this axe, I'm going to make it out of 3 pieces. I'm going to make the head of it out of this chunk of leaf spring. This is actually off of like a semi-truck or something. My neighbor got me a bunch of these, so they're pretty good for axe heads from what I found. You know, it's spring steel, so it's good hard steel. My plan is I'm probably going to cut off a chunk, probably here, and cut it like an angle, and forge one side into my axe head. The other side will be, well, towards the other side, I guess, where everything's forged well together. Anyway, the back spike is going to be forged. This is also technically from a leaf spring. I attempted to forge a spear. This is back when I kind of first started blacksmithing. Was it 2 years ago? It didn't really turn out so well, and I never finished it, so I'm just going to scrap it because I need the steel. So I'll probably cut a chunk off the back where it's a little thicker, forge that to shape, and then the central part where everything's held together is just going to be this piece of, what is this? 2" by 3/16 flat bar, mild steel, nothing special. I'll probably narrow it out a bit. Hopefully I'll thicken it too. This is just what I got because it's all I could get at the hardware store, and I didn't want to travel around trying to get the exact thing I needed when I could just make it in probably 5 hammerheads. But I'm going to hammer both sides thinner to help with forge weld. So it'll probably be wider, or actually probably pretty wide, and then thin out. And I'll probably keep this side a little thinner for the spike, so that way the spike's same width. Anyway, I'm going to quit rambling, go to the bench, get my grinder, and cut this stuff to the size I needed, and start forging. Now that I have everything forged out, this is kind of the pattern it's going to go for. I'm going to have to clean up a lot of the edges. Of course, they're kind of all over the place. So I'm just going to go to the grinder, grind these smooth so I don't have this scale on there. Then I'm going to layer, there we go. I'm going to layer these, tack weld that in place, and then heat it up, or, well, I have to more than just heat it up. I have to get it to forge welding temperature, forge weld it together. Then I'm probably going to take my wedge, which I have right here. I actually have this set up to where it's about the size of, it's like a 1" board. So I'll use that. Put that in there to forge these around so I have the general shape of for what I'm going to use for the handle. And then I'm going to do the same with the back spike, clean it up, stick it in there, tack weld it in place, and then forge weld it. everything forge welded together, I'm going to take a wire wheel and clean up the whole thing. I find the flux kind of leaves the residue on it. But after I get done with that, I'm going to grind an edge along here and probably shape this a little differently, make it more spike-like. I was originally going to make it angled, but I kind of like the way it goes up and then dips down. So I might just leave that. But I'll still probably clean up the shape and then put an edge at least along the back here. And then probably just a small one here to give it a little more, pointiness or whatever. But yeah, let's go do some grinding. Okay, while I'm currently waiting on the blade to cool, I drew out my handle on a piece of hickory. This is just that I won by, I think it's what, probably 4 or 5 inch. I forgot to look. But it's hickory, so it's pretty dense. I made sure the wood grain, I don't know, you can kind of see it's a bit bright in here. It doesn't really want to focus, but I made sure the wood grain's going pretty straight and back, or forward and backwards on it, so it's a little stronger. I chose hickory instead of oak because hickory is a lot denser and a lot stronger. It's what's used for a lot of baseball bats and, well, axe and hammer handles, so it's good. I also, when I was getting ready to make this board that I used is actually quite a bit heavier than a lot of the oak boards that are larger that I use for handles, so you can tell it's a much denser wood. But my handle is pretty basic shape. I didn't want anything fancy. And it's just roughed out because I'm just going to go with a general, I'll probably make it a little big so I can sand it down later, just so I can fit it to my hand a little better. And since it's an axe, I don't want it to be too small. Okay, now that I have the rough shape cut out, it's pretty all over the place. My bandsaw, there we go, doesn't cut very straight lines. Part of it, I think, is because this is pretty dense wood, so it kind of goes more with the wood grain than what the saw wants. My saw is also kind of small and probably dull, so that probably doesn't help. But it's close enough where I'm going to take it to my belt sander, clean it up, cut this to the shape where it fits in the socket of the axe, and then I'll have to cut a notch in there so that way I can put a wedge through it. Now that I have this to the shape I want it, I'm gonna mount, and I also have that notch cut in there, terribly, but it's in there. I'm gonna mount it on my axe head, then I'm gonna burn it and linseed oil it, and then all I have to do is put a wedge in that, which will, since I accidentally made it really wide, I'll probably fill with epoxy as well, and then put the metal wedge going the other way. I need to get those. I don't really attempt to make them because I can buy them for a few bucks at a hardware store. So I'm just gonna do that and it's done. So I got myself a small wedge made. This is just out of a scrap chunk of oak I had lying around. I got the metal piece. This is for a sledgehammer. I just had it lying around from a past project. Probably mounting a sledgehammer, to be honest. But I just cut it down a little bit to where it fits into the eye a little bit. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put wood glue in this, hammer my wedge in, and take the steel and then put it going the other direction like you would most axes.